Hi everyone, welcome to another Kingfisher video. No, nothing's wrong. We are rowing upstream today to check out our overnight boom tent sleep setup, which is going to be later on in the video. This video is actually all about the boat. I'm going to do this in 3 parts and hopefully I can work out how to time code them for you, or just put the timestamps in the description. You can skip bits and go to the bits that you might be interested in. So the first part's going to be the backstory about how Kingfisher came to be in my possession, the state she was in, etc, etc. Second part is going to be a boat tour. I like the conversation that people perpetuate by showing off their boats, and I've got a lot out of that, so I think we'd like to add to that conversation. And the third part will be a look at the sleeping setup, which has never been used, and despite being made 6 months ago in lockdown, I'm actually just paddling up Middle Creek, you can see that behind me, to get to a remote location, set up and sleep the night, just to test it all out, because as yet I don't even know if it all works. So let's jump right in, find the bit you like, and I'll talk to you later. It was dinghy cruising channels like David's Mirror Cruising and the Roger Barnes channel that were so inspirational in getting me back on the water after a 30-year absence from sailing. The more videos I saw, the more I learned, and the more ads I pored over on local online classifieds saw me stumbling upon what appeared to be a complete Heron-class dinghy on a trailer for the princely sum of $500. Upon reflection, I think my childhood had some kind of influence here, as my father used to take me sailing in his Heron over 40 years ago, and being such a newbie to dinghy sailing, the common thinking that they are a robust and stable little boat was very much appealing. So, purchased sight unseen, I dragged her home from Wodonga, some 550 kilometres away, on a return trip from Melbourne. You will note at this point, not all decision-making is well thought through. I soon discovered she was more sieve than boat, as the hull was cracked over both the trailer slides and the transom plywood was coming off the frame, as well as some rot in other locations. After a brief stint at the University of YouTube, I spent the next 3 months going back to bare timber, repairing and reinforcing her frame and hull, and adding a fiberglass epoxy sheath to her outer skin. She got the same blue paint that she came with, very much a part of her charm. From correspondence with the State Heron Association and the provision of some photos to their experts, I was told she was built in the early 1960s. A popular racing dinghy here in Australia, the Heron was originally designed by Jack Holt in the United Kingdom in the 50s. While not known as a fast boat, the Heron has introduced many to the sport and pastime of sailing. She was named Kingfisher by my daughter and launched on Narrabeen Lagoon on the 23rd of February 2020. With no idea how to trim her properly and limited dinghy sailing experience, I spent the next 2 years bringing her and the skipper up to the standard that we are at today. A sound boat that does whatever is asked of her, and she always takes care of her skipper. Welcome to the Kingfisher boat tour. Unfortunately, cicadas messed up the entire soundtrack to this, so I'm going to narrate our way through it. Modifications start with the main sheet cleat at the back there, and that's for when we're feeling particularly lazy. That little wooden block to the right is for nesting the longitudinal sleeping boards, and that stops them sliding off while you're at rest. We have the bullhorn cleat running for the rear anchor line through that fair lead. That's part of the 2 anchor 1 rope system that Peter taught me. Thanks for that, Pete. Continuous line running forward to the front anchor. Of course, the big stinky motor, which has got me out of trouble several times, and for some reason I filmed the rope there. What we need to zoom into now is that little silver bag attached to the rear transom, the transom. That's the doofus, the deployable underwater foot utility system. if I happen to flip the boat, a little rope ladder that I made can be flipped out from there to enable a huge man to get back into the boat. Moving round to starboard, we've got the sleeping boards stowed under that seat. A new addition to Kingfisher is those tie-down straps. I've had gear rolling around for the last 2 years and have finally gotten to installing permanent attached straps. We move up to the oar. A couple of modifications here. One was to bungee tie the oar onto the rollock and add a R clip or a split pin so that the oars cannot come out even if I flip it. We move to the rear. We've got a similar little bungee strap just over a stainless screw. I can deploy those oars in like seconds. Just reach forward, flick them off, oars are out, away we go. Looking forward, we can see some of the storage underneath the thwart. I think we move down here. Yes, we do. So that's the galley box, which is just your transier and cooking gear. And on the left-hand side, or to port, there we go, is I call that the hardware box. It's batteries, cables. Clearly there's toilet paper there. I consider that hardware. And various other bits and pieces for camping and whatnot. Attached to the front bulkhead, I added a rope bag. There are so many ropes on a Heron, particularly this one where I've added reefing points. So that just helps keep that under control. That little anchor point, stainless anchor point, connects a rope from the centerboard back to a cleat on the case. Helps me to angle the centerboard for various conditions. It works against a bungee. We come to the electric setup. So there's a battery box made out of my daughter's lunchbox, strapped into the boat. Just a little 7 amp battery and solar charger. It connects to this bilge pump through a waterproof connector and runs a pipe all the way down the side. A very flexible pipe, which normally you don't see. And I can flick out over the side should I need to pump out. Apparently I should have fed it through there. Let's have a look at some of the safety gear. An EPIRB, heaps of overkill for a dinghy, but rules here, more than 2 nautical miles offshore, you've got to carry one, and I plan to do some offshore islands at some stage. And of course the fire extinguisher, a requirement because I have a battery on board. I thought it would have been the fuel, but no, it's the battery. And then our storage solution, which is all down one side to help balance while I sleep. So you've got your fuel. I keep 2 days worth of unperishable food in that box just to make life quicker. That's a water container, which is an outboard fuel container with the sticker ripped off. So it's the same plastic. It was new. I didn't clean out an outboard tank. And the boat bits, so that's the compass and torch and other things that I'm required to carry. That brings us to the end of our tour. I'll do sails another day. I think that's enough for us all. I think the best way to show you the sleeping setup is to actually disassemble it. So let's start from the air mat and everything's been put away. But over the top I put just a thin carpet runner. That's just to protect the inflatable sleeping mat. So under the forward we've got 2 headboards forward of the thwart, and they pop out. There are 2 locating pins there. They're just screws that I've ground back, and that curve I have made to fit the curve of the hull. There's a little rail back there that this sits on. Now, leveling was the big trick, and I'll show you how that was done. It's this guy. So just eyeballing it off the edge of the centerboard case. I packed it up at that point, I had to block that in for some reason, but that was all just eyeballed level off the thwart. So that's a key piece of the whole thing in order to make it 6 foot long. As we head further back, this will also help because I'm packing up. That goes forward, we'll worry about that later. So two 19mm by 125, 140mm pine boards, and I put spaces between them to stop that pinching. Bit of flat aluminium bar up this end off the thwart, and just levelled up with the rear bench seat and the half-size buoyancy tank. Couple of foam mats, and that takes care of everything. Oh yeah, simple crutch. You can see how I made the tarp. I just used scissors, duct tape, and a hardware store tarp. Some bungee loops I bought off eBay. It was very, very simple. Just set the crutch up, drape the tarp over, start cutting, folding. You can reinforce with the duct tape itself. Found it to be quite strong on the bungee loops. And of course, the little lugs that went in under the gunwale. That's all there is to the sleeping setup.